Greetings, everyone. P. Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. And today, in the co-captain's chairs, Asher and George Lamie. What's going on?
What's up, Pete?
Asher, how do you rank these Apocrypha albums? That's what everybody really wants to know.
What do you think, buddy? You ain't talking.
He's not talking? He's like, they're all great. It's a tie.
He loves the stuff Dad plays.
Yeah. So, for those of you who are asking who the hell is Apocrypha, this is a band we were just chatting before we started taping that George has been listening to since these albums came out. We've got three of them. Was it 80, 87, 88, and 90 or something like that. And
Right.
I had always heard of these albums, but never actually listened to them until like the last couple of months. And since there's only three albums in the catalog, I kind of dove in pretty quickly and really have come to enjoy these. And again, this band was on, depending on where you lived, what corner of the world you lived, they were either on Shrapnel Records or Roadrunner Records. And for Shrapnel, kind of like a different sort of a band because, yeah, there was shredding neoclassical guitar on these albums, but these are vocal oriented power metal albums, right? Power
Yeah.
metal, thrash, traditional metal, neoclassical metal, all incorporates the band Apocrypha. And let's talk about who's in the band before we start talking about the album. So we've got Tony Fredianelli, I believe is his name.
Yep.
He's like the kind of the star of the show here. He is the lead guitar player. He is the virtuoso shredder, and then he went on to join, was it Third Eye Blind, I believe, at some point, much later on.
Yep.
Strange. I mean, he wasn't in the band for all that long, but still kind of like a strange place for him. And he hasn't turned up anywhere else, right? To my knowledge.
No, he had a bad parting with them, and they were in court for years. I don't know how it ever shook out, but he was suing those guys. So I'm sure that had more of his attention than putting a new band together.
Yeah, possibly. And I think he also didn't he also do he have his own solo album for Shrapnel? Didn't he do like an instrumental album?
Yeah, he signed a 4 album contract like everybody did back then, and Barney gave him a choice, an Apocrypha live album or a solo album for the fourth album, and he chose to do a solo album. It's different. It's not my cup of tea. It's heavy. It's kind of wild. I don't know. It never sat right with me. I should probably revisit it.
Yeah, I haven't heard it. And of course, these guys are from Las Vegas. The other kind of constant member in this band is the lead vocalist, Steve Plosica, I believe is how he says his name.
I think so. Yeah.
Plosica, I don't know, whatever, Plocica, however pronounces his name. I have I've come to the conclusion that I think that he's actually a pretty decent singer who at times in this catalog is singing in a style that maybe isn't best suited for him. Right? Is that, am I kind of
Yeah. Uh, I was going to tell the story later, but I'll tell it now. I used to spend some time at this. Well, we had a family friend that owned a bar around here, and she was in a position to offer some like a trips to Vegas. It was like a tour package. So it was 5 days airfare both ways, 5 days on the strip for 390 in 1990.
wow.
So I went just to go fuck off there. So I'm there and you know me, I'm going to go to the record store. So I went to the
Yeah.
record store, and the guy behind the counter turned out to be the brother, no, the friend of Freddie and Ellie's little brother. So I'm like, oh, I love those guys. And he's like, they're playing this weekend. I'm like, no. So I got to go see them, which was rare. He said they play like 3 or 4 times a year, tops. So it was very good happenstance that they were playing the weekend I was there. So I went and saw him at this like movie theater type venue, and got to talk to Plosica and Freddie Anelli after the show. And Plosica said that on the first album, I said, like on the second album, he kind of is doing more of a Halford thing. So on the first album, he's kind of doing like an ogre thing. And I'm like, what's up with that? And he said that Freddie Anelli produced the first album, and that's what he kept telling him, go more ogre, kind of like Peter Marino in Cacophony, kind of that gruff, tough guy thing.
Yeah, like a Chuck Billy almost type of thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he said he wasn't comfortable with it, but then he said by the time they got to Eyes of Time, he let him kind of do more of his thing, which was for me considerably better. I don't know
Yeah,
about
I would
you.
agree. I would agree. He's much, much better at the higher range type of stuff. That's
Yeah,
something
I think it's
ridiculous.
big pipes.
Yeah, yeah. And he, again, I haven't never heard of him in anything else. Did he just kind of fade into obscurity, I guess?
Ditto, never, none of these guys. It's weird.
Yeah, strange. They had they had the one bass player. We got Al Run. Well, the first album, so there's Al Rumley on bass, Mike Poe
Mike
on
Poe on
drums.
drums. Good guys.
Yeah, and then Steve and Tony obviously, and then Chip Crovian came in on second guitar for the second album, and then we eventually got Breck Smith on bass and Dave Schiller on drums for the last album. So it's kind of
And they're every bit as good. I mean, they're killer players.
yeah, yeah. So we've got three albums. We're gonna rank them as we like them, and I'll have George kick us off with his number three.
My number three is the last one, Area 54. Um, I think the albums get a little bit incrementally heavier as they go. So this is
Yeah,
the heaviest to me, especially these early tracks. Hair is holding on to you. Catch 22. That's probably my favorite Catch 22. That's brutally heavy. Um, there are each album has an instrumental in the five slot. This one kind of maybe showing the times, kind of got like a funky thing going, as opposed to the early ones were more neoclassical. This one's kind of got some funk moves, killer slapping bass from Mr. Breck Smith. Um, Area 54, the title track, it's a really good tune, kind of like the closest thing to a ballad on this one. Why it ends up three for me is we have an issue here where we he let the engineer of the album, Steve Fontano, co-write two of the songs, one of which, Born to This World, is their one and only Duff track in their catalog, if you ask me. That song, I don't know what they were going for with that one. Posika's singing in an odd fashion, and it's just not a very good song to me. The rest of it, though, good stuff. Maybe the other song that Fontano wrote too, Power Elite, a little, again, a little bit of a weird affect on the vocals, but the rest of this is sledgehammer, heavy, good writing, great soloing. This guy, Freddie Nelly, his technique and his technique is phenomenal, and he writes memorable solos as well
yeah.
as he writes all these tunes too. So, uh, yeah, it's a good album, but don't get it before you get the other two, is what I would say. It's a step down.
Yeah, I would agree. That's also my number three. It's definitely the heaviest. It might even have the best riffs of all of the three.
Some
I
good
mean,
riffs.
especially, and I think the album is kind of front loaded. There's
Yes.
questionable stuff at the back end, but I mean, Terror Holding On to You is just completely crushing. I love the riffs. The drums are great. Catch 22 is just like I mean, man, it's just like this wall of crunchorama that like is irresistible to me. I mean, just so good. A Night in the Fog. At times in this catalog, I hear, and again, I know it's before them, but I hear like a little bit of like what Nevermore would become. So
Yeah.
to me, it's like this. This band is like this gap between Sanctuary and Nevermore at times, musically speaking. And I hear that in a lot of this catalog. So, again, it's kind of thrashy, it's kind of power metal. It's kind of like its own thing. I really like it a lot. Yeah, the power lead is really different. I mean, it's not there's like no neoclassical stuff going on. It's not really thrashy. It's like this just grinding kind of metal track. I like it. It's just really different. The chorus is really catchy on there. I dig the instrumental. I hear again little bits of like Sanctuary. I hear a little Fate's Warning. It's kind of moody, little Queensryche, a little metal church, that sort of thing going on. Tiananmen Square, or however the hell you pronounce it, that reminds me of Testament a lot. I like that. It's a really good track. The Detriment of Man. I hear it's like they're borrowing some Judas Priest licks here and there. I hear some stuff on the guitars. I'm like, all right, that's Judas Priest right there. Yeah, Born to This World. He's doing some Jimmy Page stuff there, right? There's definitely some Zeppelin ripoff then, but then
Yeah,
he comes in, then Placido comes in and he's singing like Axl Rose. I'm kind of like, what is this? It just doesn't work at all. It's just so weird. And they saved it for the end of the album. Maybe that was cool, but or the best thing to do. But yeah, but I mean, I love the production of this album. I think it's the best sounding album, and there's some killer stuff on here. But to me, there's a couple of questionable tracks that are like a little weird for them, and that's really the only reason it's at number three. Because I mean, there are a couple tracks on here that I maybe like as much as anything in the catalog, but it's
yeah.
just not as consistently good an album like the other ones. So yeah, and great cover art on all these. I mean, for folks wanting to catch a
It's probably the best of the three covers, I'd say.
yeah, it's really cool. And then there they are. So totally looks like 1990, and this was 1990. This was their third and final album, and this CD reissue here is really cool because it's got all sorts of photographs and info on the band. And this came out on Dive Bomb Records. But, this was,
Oh yeah, that's a reissue label.
yeah,
They do the Chastain stuff too.
yeah. So,
I wish I had that version. I got the old Shrapnel.
oh, do you with nothing, right?
Nothing, just credits.
Yeah. No, it's a good reissue. It sounds great, and it's got a lot of good information. So good album though. I really, all three of these are really good.
Yeah.
But you got to rank them somehow. So, all right, off to number two.
My number two is the debut, Forgotten Scroll. Was hanging with the my bestie last night. We were trying to remember how who found them first. How do we get into them? We neither one of us could remember, so I'm going to assume when we went to the record store, we used to go up to the front. They had the magazine rack, and we'd flip open to the inner flap of the both sides, the front and the back. 'Cause that's usually where the Shrapnel ad was. And they put three or four albums in the ad, and then we'd read about them and then go grab them out of the fucking bin. I'm assuming that's how we came upon this because I can't remember any other scenario that works. We were just hoovering up anything on Shrapnel. And yeah, we got this home and we're like, I just remember that whole summer we were blown away, man. I mean, it's just finally a good metal band on Shrapnel and a complete metal band, good vocals, everybody can play. And of course, we were huge guys into technique then, and there's technique on this one, I think, more than the other two. They're more Freddie Nelly himself. This is his Ingve album.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, his picking on this is extreme. I mean, really good solos. This one's a little front loaded too. Lost Children of Hope, incredible. Holy Wars, that's probably the best solo on the album. That guitar solo is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it's the last two songs on the old first side, Fall of the Crest. I never heard anything like that.
His sweep picking on that is just absolutely insane.
And if you
Absolutely.
listen on the verses, the bass player is doing the sweeps with him.
Yeah.
At the time, we were just like blown away by that. Tablet of Destiny is the instrumental. That's very neoclassical,
Yeah.
real catchy. The second side is good too, but it is noticeably little half step off. Good songs though. Look to the Sun, Riding in the Night. Um, Distorted Reflections might be the weak sister here, but it's not weak. It's just maybe a little bit off the pace. Broken Dreams, a ballad, a good ballad. Yeah, it's a complete album. Did not come out here domestically in the CD era. You had to get it from Japan. This is a Japanese all that.
There you go.
There was a reissue in 2014 by Shrapnel, and it got. I mean, I don't think he printed many of them. It's out of print. Was out of print within a year, so hard to come by. But if you can manage to come across it, absolutely must have for 80s metal.
Yep. That's my number two as well. George was nice enough to make me a copy because I couldn't find anything that was even affordable. This is very hard to come by. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like this quite a bit. And I agree with a lot of your points on here. And again, you've got Tony is basically playing all the guitar on this. And as a first album, I think they really wanted to push him as like the next guitar hero, and you can tell because this is totally his Yngwie album. And all the songs you mentioned, I think, are absolutely great. The bass playing is fantastic on this album. And I love like on Tablet of Destiny the way they like double track all of the guitars so it sounds like a symphony of guitars. I mean, if you were to listen to that and be like, "Oh, those are two great players," I'm like, it's only one guy. So
Yeah.
really, really cool stuff. I like the way they did that. I agree. The second half of the album to me sounds a little like Ingve generic, like the more vocal oriented Ingve stuff that's kind of like plotting and predictable. They fall a little bit into that trap, but I mean, I absolutely love Broken Dreams. I love the acoustic guitar and the keyboards, and I think Placica's got like a little bit more of an emotional vocal on that one. Really, really good track. But there's lots of great stuff on here. Holy Wars is terrific. Children of Hope, Lost Children of Hope might be my favorite song on here. It's just so good. Fall of the Crest. I mean, it's a really, really strong album, but I think there's one other that's a little bit better. So that's my number two as well.
I
So
got to think about song two. Song two on all three albums is like phenomenal. It's
yeah, yeah, pretty
a
much.
weird coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, Penance, Keep the Faith is a great opener on here too. That's also
Yeah.
really good. But yeah, it's the to me the middle of this album is just really really good. That's where it really picks up steam.
I knew a guy around here named Phil Baker. He was a record he had a label of his own, small label. And he said he got instrumental demos from Freddie and Ellie in the early 80s. So I'm thinking that this first album was kind of a rush job. Like he had instrumental stuff, but he had an idea, or Varney had an idea to do vocal stuff, and maybe he didn't have enough material. So that's why the strong stuff is up front, and then he was kind of running out of ideas as it goes down. Maybe. I don't know.
That could be. That could
That's
be.
how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me because there's probably like three songs on here that sound pretty quickly put together. They're not quite as developed as some of the other ones. So yeah,
Right.
it could be. But it's all still really good though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not Eyes of Time because very few albums are Eyes of Time. Um, if you watch the Shrapnel show that Steven and I did, we both had it in our Shrapnel list. We both had it top five, actually. I went back and looked when you did the 80s show in the morning last year. I had this at number seven of the whole 80s. So that tells you what I think of it. I think it's a five-star album.
Wow.
Um, Father Time, incredible opener. So sledgehammer heavy, just so heavy. Westworld is my favorite song. That's like speed metal to the max. And him, Plosica doing the Halford thing big time. Uh, Twilight of Modern Man, great song. Probably the weakest song on the first side, which is crazy because it's a great song. Alexander the King, great unison run in that runs through the whole thing. Bass playing on this is killer.
Yeah.
Al Rumley had some connection to Vinnie Vincent before he was in Apocrypha. I don't know. He played with him. He was in a band with him. I remember hearing that back in the day. Um, the Daytime Stood Still is the instrumental. Again, Friedman produced this album, and you can tell his influence on Freddie and Nelly because there's a lot of Friedman-esque playing on this album, and that track particularly is very Friedman. The old second side doesn't fall off a little bit like Forgotten Scroll does. It's right up there. The Hourglass is crushing. Speed metal, thrashy. You mentioned Nevermore. When Nevermore was they had an idea at one point of doing a covers EP, and they were taking submissions from the fans, and I said that they should cover the Hourglass. That would be incredible. Um, H.G. Wells is probably the my least favorite song on this album, but it's still good. I
Yeah.
mean, and The Man Who Saw Tomorrow was your prerequisite for shrapnel bands back in the day. Everybody had to write a song about Nostradamus. That's that one. And it closes with Mystic, which is a really good ballad. Even I like it better than Broken Dream. It's really good. So I mean this album does it all for me. So it was no doubt my number one.
Yeah, it's mine obviously as well. Mystic to me totally shows you what a good vocalist this guy really is if he would just sing in the style that he's comfortable in.
Yeah.
I think it's a great slow builder of a track, and it totally gives me like early Queensryche and Fates Warning vibes. And it's just nice and melodic and really, really good song. And it closes a really, really strong album. I mean, The Man Who Saw Tomorrow was great. H.G. Wells really good. I think the Hourglass is terrific. I'm not sure I love the chorus though. Chorus is a little weird. It's a little weird, but the song
Yeah.
itself is great. Yeah, I mean, Twilight of Modern Man is so good. Father Time, Westworld. There's blazing leads on here. That big heavy riffs. I really dig his singing across the whole album. Yeah, I mean, and I noticed like the production is very different on this album from the first album. It's to me, it's like the guitars have a little more grit to them. They're a little dirtier, a little bit more distortion. I don't know.
Mm,
It's all three of these albums sound very different from each other from a production standpoint. But man, again,
yeah.
like and I like quite frankly, I like having the second guitar in this band. It just gives them a little fuller sound, right? But yeah, it's just there's full on speed metal here, power metal, more melodic stuff. It's just got a little bit of everything. And man, the guitar soloing is just off the charts. Cover's pretty cool too. And I love the totally typical Shrapnel looking back cover, right? I mean, with all the
Yeah.
shots of the band and whatnot. But yeah, then I picked this up used on Discogs, and again, it's got like no information at all, and but it's an original CD pressing, so they are out
This
there.
one,
Yeah,
this one got reissued in 2014 too, and again, got hoovered up. You don't see them out there anymore. Supposedly they're remastered, but I've heard rips of them, and they don't sound any different to me. It sounds like a crap job, which is a shame because if this had ultra production too, I think it would be that much more incredible. I mean, the
yeah,
production's, not great. I do like the guitar tone, the solo tone on this album a lot.
yeah.
It,
Very
he,
clean and just crystal clear. It's
yeah,
weird because the leads and the riffs, the rhythms sound very different the way they're produced. So
and I remember at the time a lot of stuff sounds doubled. So I remember when I saw them, I went to see if that Chip Krovian guy was going to do any of it. He doubled a lot of the stuff, so he could play too. Freddie Nelly didn't really let him play very much, but as it turns out, he let him do a lot of the harmony stuff. So that was cool. I mean, it made it better live.
yeah. And it's just crazy how like none of these guys really went on to do much of anything else.
Yeah, in the liner notes of the reissue for Forgotten Scroll, he says there's a blurb from Freddie Nelly, and he says, anyone think I should do another Apocrypha album now? What would that be like? I'm like, yeah, of course, dude, but are you gonna? He didn't, of course. We're 10 years down the line, he still hasn't done it.
I
So
know, right? I would think though there's lots of these record labels that are latching onto bands who are playing like, traditional heavy metal from the 80s. And I would think like, Storm Spell Records would be all into having a band like this kind of get back together and putting something out, right?
yeah, that would be killer.
Yeah. So, but it's been a long time.
People, if you're an 80s metal guy and you don't know these albums, you got to get in this Discog. It's really good.
Yeah, yeah, it is really good. I was pretty pleasantly surprised by how much I really enjoyed these. So it's definitely cool stuff. So for everybody watching, obviously you can't go wrong with any of them. The first two are we lean towards a little bit, but man, don't sleep on that third album, which is
Mhm.
fairly easy to get. I mean, you can get this reissue that I picked up, and it's available everywhere. And try you can go listen to them here on YouTube. They're all available, but I would definitely go check these out. Like George said, if you are an 80s metal fan, you like shredding guitars and you like kind of power metal, thrash, speed metal type of thing, that 80s classic sound here in the US, these are worthy additions to your catalog. So
If somebody out there knows Tony Freddie Nelly, put a spark up his ass. Tell him to get something going.
get something going. We need another album all these years later, right? 35 years later. Come on, let's do it. All right, well, that's a wrap, folks, for ranking the albums this week. Kind of a short one, but a short catalog, but a good catalog. So hopefully you've got enough ammo to go out and investigate this catalog. So if nothing else, please go listen to these albums. I think they are, for me, I mean, I'm a big metal guy and have been forever, but these escaped me back in the day. So I wonder how many people watching maybe heard the name, saw an album cover, but never listened. And now it's like, all right, I should go check them out finally all these years later. Because I always say better late than never, right?
You never know who's going to hear something too. You you probably would be surprised by this. You mentioned that we're doing this ranking. You promoted on the morning show the other day. And who pipes up in chat and says Tony Ferdianelli, but Marlin? So
Really?
yeah, when you set up ranking the albums of Apocrypha, he puts in Tony Ferdianelli, and I'm like, whoa, Marlin.
Wow, I wouldn't have expected that. Cool. See, there
Yeah.
you go.
So you never know how things find their way to people or how they don't. So
Yeah. Well, we do have a lot of guitar players and people who have followed guitar players on who watch the channel. So uh, there were a lot of people who were into the whole Shrapnel, guitar shredder scene for a while, and this guy was one of them. So yeah. Well, just look at when I did the review of the Cacophony reissue, right? I was shocked by how many people watched that.
yeah, me too.
I mean, the review episodes, do about 1,000 views or whatever, but like, man, that was like what, 3,000 people watched that. And so I'm like, oh, people remember this stuff. So, so we'd be surprised. You never know that this could be one of those videos that all of a sudden like does great business. And we were like, oh, that's surprising. It's like, who
Yeah,
knows? Shrapnel has legs, I guess, right?
yeah. The one we Steven and I did is getting close to 5K, I think. So
Wow.
people are out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. So, like I said, if you are familiar with this band, rank these albums as you like them down in the comments below. If you have never listened to them after you've watched this video, go check them out. Come back, drop a comment, let us know what you think after hearing them. So, some good stuff here, and we'll see you next week here on Ranking the Albums. We've got Grant Arthur is coming back. He is back from the cruise of doom in more ways than one. We are going to be ranking the 6 albums of Loggins and Messina. So after a couple of weeks of metal, we're going to do a little bit of soft rock type of thing. So that's coming up next week, and we've got a lot of cool ranking shows coming up. Got on the docket, we've got Coney Hatch, we've got Virgin Steel, we've got SOG, we've got Hellstar, we've got Riot, all sorts of stuff coming up. So lots to do still, and we'll get to them as we get to them. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. Look for both George and I together on shows like For Fusion Friday and In the Prog Seat. And I know George and I have a couple of other, actually, we have one coming up fairly soon. Really soon. Caligula's Horse. I forgot about that one. It wasn't sitting in my to-do pile. It's actually right in front of me. So yeah, George and I will be back together here on ranking the albums for the great band Caligula's Horse, and just real soon, actually. What, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So that'll be the one right after Loggins and Messina. So we'll be doing some cool prog metal, prog, whatever, Caligula's Horse kind of. They're not really one or the other. They're kind of both. So a very, very cool band, a more recent band, and they are on Inside Out Records. Really cool catalog. Really, really dynamite band. So if you're into more modern progressive rock and progressive metal, check out the Caligula's Horse episode coming up in 2 weeks for George and me. I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. There's the albums. Check them out, and we'll see you soon here with more stuff. Take care. Bye bye.